in Guru Ram Das Ji Maharaj's time, there was this Gursikh, and their name was Baba Adamji. So Baba Adamji, they had a wife and they were blind, and their wife's name was Nepikhaji. So Nepikhaji and Baba Adamji, they both, throughout their whole life, they both really wanted a child. So in order to get a child, before they became Gursikhs, they did a lot of different things. They went to different bees, figis, they did seva, a bunch of different sadhus, and they tried a bunch of different medicines, but they still couldn't have a child. So one day they passed this Gursikh, and they told him all of their problems about not being able to have a child. So then the Gursikh replied with, listen to me, Guru Nanak Dev Ji was avatar of Akal Purkh Maharaj Ji. They were Parmeshwar on earth. After them was Guru Angad Dev Ji Maharaj Ji. After them was Guru Amar Das Ji Maharaj Ji. Now it's their fourth life, who is Guru Ram Das Ji Maharaj Ji. Guru Ram Das Ji Maharaj is very righteous, and if you do seva without wanting anything in return, then you'll be able to get the child that you want. So Baba Adamji was nodding along and listening to all of this, but in the back of their mind, they were sort of doubting themselves. They're thinking, how am I supposed to have a child if I'm at this great age? At this point, they were around 60 to 65 years old. And they're thinking, how am I supposed to have a child at this great age? And even if we do have a child, how is my wife supposed to take care of the child because she's blind? So they were having all of these doubts, and then they stopped thinking. And they were like, and then when they started thinking, and they were like, it's fine though, because even if I do the seva of Maharaji, I'll be able to have mukti after. So them and my Pikhaji, they went and they did seva of Guru Ram Das Ji Maharaj, and after the way they did seva was, Baba Adamji, they would cut liquid from a tree, and they would every day and every night they'd give half of it to Langardi Seva, and they'd take half of it home to sell, so they wouldn't be too much of a burden on Langardi Seva. And what my Pikhaji would do, since they couldn't do as much since they were blind, they would do Pandiyadi Seva, and they'd do it with so much love, it would just count as much as what Baba Adamji would do. So after 6 months, Maharaji had just been out. They had just gone on a trip, and they were coming back now. So the Sangat were all waiting for Maharaji outside, but the thing was, it had just rained a lot, so it was freezing outside, and the Sangat were really cold. So Baba Adamji saw this, and out of the kindness of their own heart, they went back to their own home, and they got all the liquor that they'd been saving for the past 6 months, and they wandered out to the Sangat. So when they did that, Maharaji was looking from above, and since they saw the fire, they asked, who's the one who's giving out the wood? So when the next day, when the Sangat went to do darshan of Maharaji, they went, and Maharaji asked the Sangat, who's the one who gave the liquor out yesterday for you all to be warm? And then the Sangat replied with, it was just some Gursikh that was doing seva, and we were really happy. We were pleased to get that liquor because we were freezing outside because of the rain. So then Maharaji, obviously they knew it was just some Gursikh. It was a Gursikh that needed that liquor to sell because they didn't have any money. So then they asked the Langri, and the Langri replied with, it's this Gursikh that's for the past 6 months, without missing a day, has been giving liquor to Langardi seva. So Maharaji hearing this, they said, go get the Gursikh. And then the Sangat, seeing how pleased, because you could tell on Maharaji's face how pleased they were, seeing how pleased Maharaji was, they go and get Baba Adamji. And Baba Adamji, since the Sangat told them how pleased Maharaji was, they're really happy themselves. So they go there and they're full of joy. And when they actually get there, Maharaji says, you've done such a beautiful seva, you've made the Sangat happy, which is my Gursikhs, you've made them happy, you made Parmeshwar happy, and above all else, you've made your Guru happy. What is it that you desire so much in your heart? Baba Adamji listened to this, and in the back of their mind, they're thinking, of course I want a child, but how am I supposed to say that I want a child? I'm at this old age, that's just going to sound silly. And even if I could get a child, once again, how is my wife supposed to take care of the child because she's blind? So in the end, after a moment of silence, Baba Adamji says, all I want, Maharaji, is your Sikhi and your seva. So Maharaji, obviously, since they're under the Jammi, they know that's not what Baba Adamji truly wants. So what they say is, why are you so afraid of telling me what you truly want? Why are you so shy? Just tell me, because you made Parmeshwar happy. That's the best thing you can do in this life. Tell me what is it that you desire so much in your heart. So Baba Adamji hearing this, they're still really embarrassed to say what they truly want. So they say, no Maharaji. They persist. They say, no Maharaji. All I want is your Sikhi. Then Maharaji is like, it's okay. Just come back tomorrow and tell me what you really want. Tell me when you're not as shy. So when Baba Adamji hears this, they go and walk home. And while they're walking, they're thinking to themselves, they're sort of doubting what they said. They're sort of thinking, maybe I should have told Maharaji that I did want a child. Maybe I should have been truthful. So when they get back home, my Bhikhaji is there waiting for them, and my Bhikhaji asks, what did Maharaji ask of you? Why did you go to Maharaji? So then Baba Adamji, they reply with, Maharaji asked me what I desired most in my heart. And I've said, because they were so pleased with my seva. So then my Bhikhaji asked them what they said, and Baba Adamji, they sort of get embarrassed, and they said, I asked for their Sikhi. I didn't ask for a son, because how am I supposed to have a son, and how are we supposed to have a son if we're both at a very old age, and if you're blind, it'll just be, it sounds impossible. So my Bhikhaji, they listen to this and they understand why Baba Adamji said what they did, but they're still like disappointed that Baba Adamji didn't ask for a son. So then they speak. They say, Maharaji is the one who can make dead trees grow leaves again. They're the one who can make dry prawns have pani again. They can give us a son. Maharaji is Parmeshwar. They're also the most righteous person there is, righteous being there is even. Tomorrow take me with you and we'll both ask for a son. So the next day, my Bhikhaji and Baba Adamji, they both go to Maharaji, and Maharaji asks the same question. What is it that you desire most in your heart? So then this time, instead of Baba Adamji speaking, my Bhikhaji speaks, and my Bhikhaji says, I wish to see my grandchild drinking milk, churn from a golden churn that was made by my daughter-in-law. So Maharaji hearing this, they're like, you asked for more than one wish. In order to have a grandchild, you must have a son. In order to have a golden churn, you must have a kingdom. And above all else, in order to be able to see these things, you must have eyes that are able to see. So then they look into my Bhikhaji and Baba Adamji's garam, and they see that then they look for a while, and then they speak, and they say, I don't see a child in your garam at all. And obviously, when the couple hears this, they're disheartened. Then Maharaji speaks again. They say, but even though I don't see a child in your garam, I've given you my word that I'll give you a child. So instead, I'm going to give you a child that was supposed to be born into my family, but it's going to be born into yours instead. A child that was supposed to be my fourth child, but instead is going to be your first child. This child's going to bring so much happiness and warmth, and the child's sons will rule kingdoms. Since this child will be part of my Atma that's going to be born into your family, there'll be a Bhagat, so that means you're going to name them by Bhagatuji. So my Bhikhaji and Baba Adamji, once they hear this, they're delighted. So they matha take to Maharaji and then they go home. And then about a year later, Baba Adamji is born. No, Vaheguru. Bhai Bhagatuji is born. So then when Bhai Bhagatuji is born, they were sort of in poverty. So because they were in poverty because all of the liquor that Baba Adamji had saved, they'd given it to the Sangat because they were being righteous. But also, before that, their family had taken all of their land because of a dispute. And they'd also taken their animals. So they were in really bad poverty, so they didn't know how the child was going to grow up. But then once the family realized that there was a baby that had been born, they started to bring their own land and their own money and animals as well, so that the child could grow up well, so that Bhagatuji could grow up well. So when Baba Guruji was growing up, the only thing they would talk about was Gurbani, and the only thing that they would think about was Maharaji. And obviously, the people in the villages, they realized because of like how everything had happened, because of how the Paise had all come in just when Baba Guruji was born, because of how like all the money and all the animals and all the land had come back just when Baba Guruji was born. The older people of the village and the older people like that sort of knew the family realized that Baba Guruji wasn't just any normal baby. And even Guru Arjan Dev Ji Maharaji, who'd been given the Gurugaddi when Baba Guruji was a little older, they had realized that Baba Guruji was supposed to be born as their younger brother, so they'd even called him their younger brother. So a little later, when Baba Guruji was a bit older, they were still a little kid, but they're a little older. There were them and my big Haji. By this point, Baba Adamji had passed away. Them and my big Haji, they were walking home, but they were walking home from doing seva. And at this point, it was like drought. There was like a lot of drought, and they were going through the region of Malwa, which was really dry. So when they were walking, since my big Haji was quite a bit older, now they were getting really tired really easily, and they were really thirsty. So they stop Baba Guruji in their tracks, and they say, I don't think I'll be able to last much longer. I'm really thirsty. So then Baba Guruji is like, oh, Mataji, don't worry. There's a village up ahead, and we'll be able to get Pani from there. So Mataji, they say, no, genuinely, I don't think I'll be able to last much longer. I feel like I might just die. So Baba Guruji, since they're obviously worried about their mother, they speak. They say, Mataji, don't worry, I'll go get the Pani myself. You sit here under the tree. There's shade here, so it'll be cooler. But if you do get too thirsty while I'm gone, pick up a rock from that dry lake over there, and Pani will sprout from it. So Mataji hears this, and they're listening, and they're sort of in disbelief. And then Baba Guruji warns them. They say, but Mataji, make sure that you hide the Pani by putting the rock back where you got it from, because then the Pani will disappear. Make sure that nobody sees you get it. Mataji listens to this, and then Baba Guruji, they go and get the Pani. So then Mataji, after a while, they get really thirsty. So they go and they pick up the rock, and to their amazement, Pani comes from it. And so they start washing their hands and washing their face and washing their kapade. And while they're doing this and thinking about how amazing this is because their son's been able to do this, a shepherd comes, and the shepherd's got about 100 sheep, and all of those sheep, since they're so thirsty, they flock to the Pani. And then the shepherd looks at this, and the shepherd's in amazement. The shepherd has been through this region so many times and knows that in this specific time of year, in this specific area, Pani isn't, there's usually no Pani. The shepherd's in amazement, and then the shepherd goes and bows to my big Haji and asks, do you know how there's Pani here? Because I've been through this region so many times. I know for a fact that Pani isn't here usually. Please tell me if you know. So my big Haji, out of their own innocence, they tell the shepherd the truth. They say, my son, me and my son were walking back home from doing seva of Maharaji, and when we were walking, since I'm so old, I was getting really thirsty. So my son told me to sit under a tree while they went to get water. But if I got too thirsty, then I should pick up a rock from the dry lake, and Pani will come from it. To my amazement, Pani didn't come from it. So the shepherd hears this and is in amazement and starts washing his own hands, washing his own feet, washing his own face. So when my big Haji and the shepherd are doing all of this, Baba Guruji comes back and sees this, and they're sort of confused at why their mother didn't hide the Pani like they asked. So then my big Haji goes to Baba Guruji, and Baba Guruji asks, Mataji, why didn't you hide the Pani like I asked to? So with that, Mataji replies, but I genuinely forgot. I didn't realize, but then when I did realize, I thought to myself, how is it fair that I'm the only one who gets to get this cold Pani, even though that shepherd and those sheep are also thirsty as well? So when that all happened, Baba Guruji listened, and then the shepherd came while they were listening, and started bowing to Baba Guruji. And then Baba Guruji, they put their hand on the shepherd's forehead and said, do Simran. So then they gave the shepherd a Shabad to do. And after that, the shepherd would do that shabad so much when working. Even the people that were like friends with the shepherd would say, "Oh, when did you become a sant?" So then the shepherd would tell them about Bapugadaji and how amazing Bapugadaji was. And so then more villages and more people start to like learn about who Bhai Bhagataji was and would go to Bhai Bhagataji. And anytime anybody would go to Bhai Bhagataji, they start talking about Sikhi and Guru Nanak Dev Ji Maharaji. And anytime they would go to do the seva of in Amritsar, then they would always take the new Gursikhs that had come because of what they'd said. So what we can learn from this Sakhi is that if we do seva like righteously, fully, without thinking of reward, then Maharaji will give us something that in our hearts that we didn't even know we wanted. Like the way Baba Adamji did the seva was they gave the lukkad that they needed to sell, but instead of thinking for themselves, they thought about the sangat first and they gave it to the sangat, even though they knew they would need it later down the line. And what they got in return was Maharaji gave them a child like they wanted, but also sort of gave them a piece of themselves. It sort of just shows that if you take one step towards Maharaji will take 1,000,000 steps towards you. Forgive me if I've made any mistakes in this Sakhi. Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh.
ਨਾਨਕ ਸਭ ਤੇਰੀ ਵਡਿਆਈ ਕੋਈ ਨਾਉ ਨਾ ਜਾਣ ਮੇਰਾ ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ 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 ਸਾਹਿਬ ਜੀ ਓੰਕਾਰ ਸ੍ਰੀ ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕੀ ਫਤਿਹ। ਸ੍ਰੀ ਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਸਾਹਿਬ ਵਾਰ ਸ੍ਰੀ ਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਦੀ ਪਾਤਸ਼ਾਹੀ ਦਸਵੀਂ ਪ੍ਰਥਮ ਗੁਰੂ ਸਿਮਰ ਕੈ ਗੁਰੂ ਨਾਨਕ ਨੇ ਕਿਹਾ ਰੰਗ ਦੂਰ ਤੇ ਅਮਰਦਾਸ ਰਾਮਦਾਸ ਹੋਏ ਸਹਾਇ ਅਰਜਨ ਹਰ ਗੋਬਿੰਦ ਨੋ ਸਿਮਰੋ ਸ੍ਰੀ ਹਰਿ श्री हर गुरु सन ते हरिया जिन रिठे सब दुख जाए देव बहादुर सिमरिया कर नाम जावे हरि सब थाई संसार। दसवें पातशाह श्री गुरु गोबिंद सिंह जी महाराज सब थाई संसार। दसम पातशाह जी की जो धन धन श्री गुरु ग्रंथ साहिब जी महाराज जी के पाठ दर्शन उपदेश जी का ध्यान तर के खालसा जी साहिब बोलो जी आप जी के साजन वाज 5 प्यारे 4 साहिबजादे 40 मुक्ते हटियां जपियां तपियां जिन्हों गुरमुखा नाम जपिया वंड के शरगिया देग चलाई तेग वाही देख सुन के अंडिठ कीता दिना प्यारे सचियारे दी पवित्र कमाई दा ध्यान धर के खालसा जी साहिब बोलो जी जिन्हां ਸਿੰਘਾਂ ਸਿੰਘਣੀਆਂ ਨੇ धर्म हेत ਸੀਸ ਦਿੱਤੇ ਬੰਦ ਕਟਵਾਏ ਖੋਪਣੀਆਂ ਲਹਾਈਆਂ ਚਰਖੜੀਆਂ ਤੇ ਜੜੇ ਆਰੇ ਨਾਲ ਚਰਵਾਏ ਗਏ ਗੁਰਦੁਆਰਿਆਂ ਦੀ ਸੇਵਾ ਲਈ ਕੁਰਬਾਨੀਆਂ ਕੀਤੀਆਂ ਧਰਮ ਨਹੀਂ ਹਾਰਿਆ ਸਿੱਖੀ ਕੇਸਾਂ ਸਵਾਸਾਂ ਨਾਲ ਨਿਭਾਏ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਦੀ ਪਵਿੱਤਰ ਕਮਾਈ ਦਾ ਧਿਆਨ ਧਰ ਕੇ ਖਾਲਸਾ ਜੀ ਸਾਹਿਬ ਬੋਲੋ ਜੀ ਪੰਜਾਂ ਤਖਤਾਂ ਸਰਬਤ ਗੁਰਧਾਮਾਂ ਜੀ ਕੇ ਦਰਸ਼ਨ ਦੀਦਾਰਿयों का ध्यान धर के खालसा जी साहिब बोलो जी प्रथम है सर्वत खालसा जी की अरदास है जी सर्वत खालसा जी को वाहिगुरू 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 नाम जित्या वै जित्या उनका सदका सर्व सुख होवै जहाँ जहाँ गुरु खालसा जी साहिब तह तह रचि अज देग देग फतेह बिरद की बैज पंथ की जीत श्री साहिब जी सहाय खालसा जी के बोल वाले बोलो जी जी बख्शो सिखा नूं सिखी दान केस दान रहत दान विवेक दान विसाह दान भरोसा दान दाना सिर दान नाम दान श्री अमृतसर साहिब जी के दर्शन स्नान चौंकियां छड्डे गुंगे जुगे जुगे अटल धर्म का जय जयकार खालसा जी साहिब बोलो जी का मानी मत उची मत पद रखिया वाहिगुरू हे अकाल पुरख अपने पद दे सदा सहाय दातार जीओ श्री ननकाणा साहिब ते होर गुरुद्वारे गुरुधामां जिन्हां तो पंथ नूं विछोड़िया गया ਖੁੱਲੇ ਦਰਸ਼ਨ ਦੀਦਾਰ ਤੇ ਸੇਵਾ ਸੰਭਾਲ ਦਾ ਦਾਨ ਪਿਆਰੇ ਖਾਲਸਾ ਜੀ ਨੂੰ ਬਖਸ਼ੋ। ਨੀਲ ਮਾਣਿਓ ਕੇ ਮਾਣ, ਨਿਤਾਣਿਓ ਕੇ ਤਾਣ, ਨਿਉਟਿਓ ਕੀ ਓਟ, ਨਿਆਸਰਿਓ ਕੇ ਆਸਰਾ, ਗੁਰੂ ਗਰੀਬ ਨਿਵਾਜ, ਬਦਲ ਪਾਵਨ ਭਗਤ ਵਚਲ, ਕਰੁਣਾ ਨਿਧਾਨ, ਅੰਤਰਜਾਮੀ, ਚੌਰ ਸਦਰ ਤਖਤ ਦੇ ਮਾਲਕ, ਧੰਨ ਧੰਨ ਸ੍ਰੀ ਗੁਰੂ ਨਾਨਕ ਦੇਵ ਜੀ ਮਹਾਰਾਜ, ਧੰਨ ਧੰਨ ਸ੍ਰੀ ਗੁਰੂ ਗੋਬਿੰਦ ਸਿੰਘ ਜੀ ਮਹਾਰਾਜ, ਧੰਨ ਧੰਨ ਮਾਤਾ ਸਾਹਿਬ ਕੌਰ ਜੀ, ਧੰਨ ਧੰਨ ਸ੍ਰੀ ਗੁਰੂ ਗ੍ਰੰਥ ਸਾਹਿਬ ਜੀ ਮਹਾਰਾਜ। ਆਪ ਜੀ ਕੇ ਹਜ਼ੂਰ ਅਰਦਾਸ ਬੇਨਤੀ ਜੋਤਰੀ ਪ੍ਰਾਰਥਨਾ, ਆਪ ਜੀ ਦੀ ਕਿਰਪਾ ਬਖਸ਼ਿਸ਼ ਰਹਿਮਤ ਸਦਕਾ ਮਹਾਰਾਜ ਜੀ, ਆਪ ਜੀ ਦੇ ਅਵਤਾਰ ਪੁਰਬਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਮੁੱਖ ਰੱਖਦਿਆਂ ਹੋਇਆਂ ਮਹਾਰਾਜ ਜੀ ਸਮੂਹ ਆਪ ਜੀ ਦੇ ਬੱਚਿਆਂ ਨੇ ਰਲ ਮਿਲ ਕਰਕੇ ਆਪ ਜੀ ਦੇ ਸਪਤਾਹ ਪਾਠ ਮਹਾਰਾਜ ਜੀ ਦੇ ਪ੍ਰਾਰੰਭ ਹੋਏ ਨੇ। ਆਪ ਜੀ ਨੇ ਕਿਰਪਾ ਕੀਤੀ ਹੈ। ਇੱਕ ਸਪਤਾਹ ਪਾਠ ਮਹਾਰਾਜ ਜੀ ਪਹਿਲੇ ਦਿਨ ਦੀ ਸੰਪੂਰਨਤਾ ਹੋਈ ਹੈ। ਪਹਿਲੇ ਦਿਨ ਦੇ ਦੀਵਾਨ ਅੰਮ੍ਰਿਤ ਵੇਲੇ ਦੇ ਦੀਵਾਨਾਂ ਦੀ ਮਹਾਰਾਜ ਜੀ ਸੰਪੂਰਨਤਾ ਹੋਈ ਹੈ। ਬਾਣੀ ਪੜ੍ਹਦਿਆਂ ਆਪ ਜੀ ਦੇ ਹਜ਼ੂਰ ਕਥਾ ਕਰਦਿਆਂ, ਸਿਮਰਨ ਕਰਦਿਆਂ, ਕੀਰਤਨ ਕਰਦਿਆਂ ਮਹਾਰਾਜ ਜੀ ਹੋਈਆਂ ਬੇਅੰਤ ਪ੍ਰਕਾਰ ਦੀਆਂ ਭੁੱਲਾਂ ਆਪ ਜੀ ਨੇ ਖਿਮਾ ਕਰ ਦੇਣੀਆਂ। ਅੱਗੇ ਤੋਂ ਸਮੱਧ ਬਖਸ਼ਣੀ ਸਤਿਗੁਰੂ ਮਹਾਰਾਜ, ਕਿਰਪਾ ਕਰਨੀ ਜਾਨਾਂ ਦੀ ਪ੍ਰੀਤੀ ਬਖਸ਼ਣੀ ਮਹਾਰਾਜ ਜੀ, ਕੋਈ ਸਿੱਖੀਆਂ ਬਖਸ਼ਣੀ, ਕਿਰਪਾ ਕਰਨੀ ਮਹਾਰਾਜ ਜੀ। ਹੁਣ ਚੱਲ ਰਹੇ ਪ੍ਰਵਾਹ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚੋਂ ਪਾਵਨ ਪਵਿੱਤਰ ਉਪਦੇਸ਼ ਬਖਸ਼ ਕੇ ਅੰਮ੍ਰਿਤ ਵੇਲੇ ਦੇ ਦੀਵਾਨਾਂ ਦੀ ਸਮਾਪਤੀ ਬਖਸ਼ੋ। ਗੁਰਬਾਣੀ ਦੇ ਪ੍ਰਵਾਹ ਇਸੇ ਤਰ੍ਹਾਂ ਮਹਾਰਾਜ ਜੀ ਚਲਾਈ ਰੱਖਣੇ, ਕਿਰਪਾ ਕਰਨੀ। ਸਹੀ ਗੁਰਮੁਖ ਪਿਆਰੇ ਮਿਲਣੇ, ਜਿਹਨਾਂ ਮਿਲਿਆ ਦੇ ਨਾਮ ਚਿਤਿਆ ਵੇ, ਧੰਨ ਧੰਨ ਸ੍ਰੀ ਗੁਰੂ ਨਾਨਕ ਨਾਮ, ਚੜ੍ਹਦੀ ਕਲਾ ਤੇਰੇ ਬਾਣ। ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕਾ ਖਾਲਸਾ, ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕੀ ਫਤਿਹ।
ਗੌੜੀ ਗੁਆਰੜੀ ਮਹੱਲਾ ਪੰਜਵਾ। ਬਹੁ ਰੰਗ ਮਾਇਆ ਬਹੁ ਬਿਧ ਪੇਖੀ, ਕਲਮ ਕਾਗਦ ਸਿਆਣਪ ਲੇਖੀ। ਮਹਿਰ ਮਲੂਕ ਹੋਏ ਦੇਖਿਆ ਖਾਨ, ਤਾਤੇ ਨਾਹੀ ਮਨ ਤ੍ਰਿਪਤਾਨ, ਸੋ ਸੁਖ ਮੋਕਾ ਸੰਤ ਬਤਾਵੋ। ਤ੍ਰਿਸ਼ਨਾ ਪੂਜੈ ਮਨ ਤ੍ਰਿਪਤਾਵੋ, ਰਹਾਓ ਅਸ ਪਵਨ ਹਸਤ ਅਸਵਾਰੀ। ਚੋਆ ਚੰਦਨ ਸੇਜ ਸੁੰਦਰ ਨਾਰੀ, ਨਟ ਨਾਟਕ ਆਖਾਰੇ ਗਾਇਆ। ਤਾ ਮਹਿ ਮਨ ਸੰਤੋਖ ਨਾ ਪਾਇਆ, ਤਖਤ ਸਭਾ ਮੰਡਲ ਦੋ ਲੀਚੇ। ਸਗਲ ਮੇਵੇ ਸੁੰਦਰ ਬਾਗੀਚੇ, ਆ ਖੇੜ ਬਿਰਤ ਰਾਜਨ ਕੀ ਲੀਲਾ। ਮਨ ਨਾ ਸੁਹੇਲਾ ਪਰਪੰਚ ਹੀਲਾ, ਕਰ ਕਿਰਪਾ ਸੰਤਨ ਸਚ ਕਹਿਆ। ਸਰਬ ਸੂਖ ਇਹੋ ਆਨੰਦ ਲਹਿਆ, ਸਾਧ ਸੰਗ ਹਰ ਕੀਰਤਨ ਗਾਈਐ। ਕਹੋ ਨਾਨਕ ਵਡਭਾਗੀ ਪਾਈਐ, ਜਾ ਕੈ ਹਰ ਧਨ ਸੋਈ ਸੁਹੇਲਾ। ਪ੍ਰਭ ਕਿਰਪਾ ਤੇ ਸਾਧ ਸੰਗ ਮੇਲਾ, ਰਹਾਉ ਦੂਜਾ।
ਸਤਿਨਾਮ ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ, 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 ਸਤਿਨਾਮ ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ 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 ਸਤਿਨਾਮ ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ। ਇੱਕ ਓੰਕਾਰ ਸ੍ਰੀ ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕੀ ਫਤਿਹ। ਪਾਤਸ਼ਾਹੀ ਦਸਵੀਂ ਕਬਿਓ ਬਾਚ ਬੇਨਤੀ ਚੌਪਈ। हमरी करो हाथ से रक्षा पूर्ण होई चित की इच्छा तब चरणन मन रह हमारा अपना जान करो प्रतिपारा हमरे दुष्ट सवै तुम खाव हो आप हाथ दे मुहे बचाव हो किसी बसै मोरो परिवारा सेवक सिख सवै करतारा मोर अच्छा नित करदै करिए सब बैरन को आज संवरिए पूर्ण होए हमारी आशा तोर भजन की रह प्यासा तुम्हें छाड़ कोई अवर न त्याऊं जो बर चाहों सो तुम ते पाऊं सेवक सिख हमारे तारी है रंजन पुत्र हमारे मारी है आप हाथ दे मुझे अबरिय मरण काल का त्रास निवरिय हो जो सदा हमारे पच्छा श्री अस्तुज यू करी हो रक्षा राख ले हो मह राखन हारे साहिब संत सहाय प्यारे दीन बंद दुष्टन के हंता तुम हो परिचित दस्कंता काल पाए ब्रह्मा अवतरा काल पाए शिव जी अवतरा काल पाए कर विष्णु प्रकाशा सकल काल का किया तमाशा जवन काल जोगी से पियो वेद राज ब्रह्मा जो थियो जवन काल सब लोग सवारा नमस्कार है ताहे हमारा जवन काल सब जगत बनायो देव दैत छन बजायो आद अंत एक है अवतारा सोई गुरु समझियो हमारा नमस्कार दे को हमारी सकल प्रजाजन आप संवारी तिरकन को सबगन सुख दियो सत्रन को परमो बुद्ध कियो कट कट के अंतर की जानत भले भले की पीर पछानत चीटी से कोई चरस थोला सोबर कृपा दुष्कर फूला संतन दुख पाए ते दुखी सुख पाए साधन के सुखी एक एक की पीर पछाने कट कट के अमर बुद्ध की जाने जब अत कर फिकरा कर तारा प्रजा तरत तब देहा पारा जब आकर कृत हो कहूँ तुम मैं मिलत देह दर सब हूँ जेते बदन श्रेष्ठ सब धारे आप आपनी बोझो चारे तुम सब ही दे रहते नारम जानत भेद भेद हर आलम निरंकार निर्विकार निरंब आद नीड अनाद संग ताका मोड़ आचार्य भेदा जाको मेघन बहुत भेदा ताका कर वाहन अनुमान महामूर्ख भेद न जानत महान देव कौ कहत सदा शिव निरंकार का चिन्ह है पिव आप अपनी बुधाई देती वर्णत भिन्न भिन्न तो देती तुम्हारा लखा न जाए पसारा की संसारा एक रूप अनूप स्वरूपा रंग भयो रापे रूपा अंडज जेरे जिसे तज कीनी अद्भुत मान बहर रच दीने कहूँ भोर राजा है बैठा कहूँ सिमट पर शंकर बैठा सिगरी श्रेष्ठ दिखाया जम्पव आज जुगाद स्वरूप सिंपव अब रक्षा मेरी तुम करो सिख बार सिख संगरो दुष्ट जिते उठवटत पाता सकल मलेच्छ करो न कहता जे स्तुत सरने परे तन के दुष्ट लिखित हुआ मरे पर जो अनुभव परे तिहारे तन के तुम संकट सुटारे जो कल को एक बार दे है ताकि काल निकट न है रचा होए तहे सब काला दुष्ट अरे तत्काला कृपा दृष्टि तन जाहिन हर हो ताकि ताप तनिक में हर हो रित सिद्ध कर्मो सब होई छाछ सके न कोई एक बार जिन तुम्हें संभारा काल फास्ते ताहे बारा जिन नर नाम तिहारो कहा दोस्त दोखते रहा खड़ग खेत में शरण तिहारी आप हाथ ले हो बारी सर्व ढोर मोह हो सहाय दुष्ट दोखते लिहो बचाई कृपा करी हम पर जग माता ग्रंथ करा पूर्ण सुबरता किलबक सकल देह को हरता दुष्ट दोषी को क्षय करता श्री अस्तुति जब पय दयाला पूर्ण करा ग्रंथ तत्काला मन भाषित बल पावे सोई दुहनत है व्यापक कोई अड़ल सुनय गोंग जो याहे सरस ना पावे सुनय मोर दिखलाय चिरता आवे दुख दर्द पाव निकट न तन नर गेर है हो जाया कि एक बार जपे को कह जपे संबत 17 सहस पण अर्ध सहस पण 3 के हिज्जा पादर श्रेष्ठ मेरे बारा तेर सतद्रव ग्रंथ सदारा सवैया पाए गए जब ते तुम्हारे तब ते को आप तेरे नहीं अन्य राम रहे पुराण पुराण अनेक कह मत एक न मान्य सिमृत शास्त्र पे सदा वो वेद कह हम एक न जान्य श्री असपान कृपा तुम्हारी कह मैं न कहो सब दोहे बखान्यो दोहरा सगल द्वार को छाड़ के कहो तुहार द्वार वाहे गहे की लाज अस गोविंद सहार सगल द्वार को छाड़ के कहो तुहारो द्वार बाहें गहे की लाज अस गोविंद दास तुहार गहे तुहारो द्वार बाहें गहे की लाज अस गोविंद दास तुहार
Sudagar das Hamaji Jiyo Penda Sab Tera Vatu Nanak Sab Teri Vadayai Koi Nao Na Jana Mera Vatu Om Ji Satnam Sri Vatu Sri Vatu Sri Vatu Adas Ek Omkar Sri Vatu Ki Patay Sri Bhagavati Ki Sahay Vaat Sri Bhagavati Ki Paksad Dasvi प्रथम भगवती सिमरता गुरु नानक नहीं ते आए अंग ते गुर ते अमरदास रामदासा हुई सहाय अर्जना हर गोबिंदनो स्मरो श्री हर राय श्री हर कृष्ण ध्याया जिन किथे सब दुख जाए तेग बहादुर सिमरिया करना निगाह गाय सब थाई होए सहाय दसवें पातशाह तान सतगुरु श्री गुरु गोबिंद सिंह जी महाराज सब थाई होना जी सहाय दसा पातशाह की जोत ਧੰਨ ਸਤਿਗੁਰੂ ਸ੍ਰੀ ਗੁਰੂ ਗ੍ਰੰਥ ਸਾਹਿਬ ਜੀ ਮਹਾਰਾਜ ਜੀ ਦੇ ਪਾਠ ਦਰਸ਼ਨ ਨਜ਼ਾਰਿਆਂ ਦਾ ਧਿਆਨ ਕਰਕੇ ਖਾਲਸੇ ਸਾਹਿਬ ਬੋਲਣਾ ਜੀ ਇਹ ਨਮਾਣਿਆ ਤੇ ਮਾਨ ਸਤਿਗੁਰੂ ਨੇ ਕਾਣੇ ਕਾਮ ਸਤਿਗੁਰੂ ਨੇ ਆਪਣੇ ਜੀ ਉਸ ਸਤਿਗੁਰੂ ਧੰਨ ਸਤਿਗੁਰੂ ਸ੍ਰੀ ਗੁਰੂ ਨਾਨਕ ਦੇਵ ਜੀ ਮਹਾਰਾਜ ਧੰਨ ਸਤਿਗੁਰੂ ਸ੍ਰੀ ਗੁਰੂ ਗੋਬਿੰਦ ਸਿੰਘ ਜੀ ਮਹਾਰਾਜ ਧੰਨ ਸਤਿਗੁਰੂ ਸ੍ਰੀ ਗੁਰੂ ਗ੍ਰੰਥ ਸਾਹਿਬ ਜੀ ਸਾਜਾ ਨੇ ਪਾਠ ਕੀਤਾ ਸਤਿ ਪਾਤਸ਼ਾਹ ਰੂਪ ਰਾਮ ਮਹਾਰਾਜ ਜੀ ਆਗੇ ਆਪਣੀ ਸੇਵਕਾ ਬਸ ਇਸ ਪਾਸੇ ਸੇਵਾ ਹੋਈ ਮਹਾਰਾਜ ਜੀ ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਮੰਤਰ ਦੇ ਜਾਪ ਹੋਏ ਹਨ ਚੌਕ ਸਾਹਿਬ ਜਾਪ ਹੋਏ ਮਹਾਰਾਜ ਦੀ ਸੇਵਾ ਕਰਦੇ ਹਾਂ ਪਾਠ ਕਰਦੇ ਹਾਂ ਅਨੇਕ ਪ੍ਰਕਾਰ ਦੀਆਂ ਭੁੱਲਾਂ ਗਲਤੀਆਂ ਹੋਣਗੀਆਂ ਆਪ ਜੀ ਨੇ ਅਣਜਾਣ ਬੱਚੇ ਸਮਝ ਕਰਕੇ ਮਾਫ ਕਰਨਾ ਆਪ ਜੀ ਨੇ ਆਗੇ ਦੇ ਮਹਾਰਾਜ ਜੀ ਆਗੇ ਦੇ ਸੁੰਦਰ ਸਰੀਰ ਡਾਕਟਰ ਸਥਾਨਾਂ ਤੋਂ ਲੈ ਕਰਕੇ ਸ੍ਰੀ ਸਤਿਗੁਰੂ ਸਾਹਿਬ ਵਿਰਾਜਮਾਨ ਕਰਨ ਦੀ ਆਗਿਆ ਕਰਨੀ ਜੀ ਸਹੀ ਪਿਆਰੇ ਮੇਰ ਜਿਨ੍ਹਾਂ ਦਾ ਮੇਰਾ ਤੇਰਾ ਨਾਮ ਜਤਾਵੇ ਤਾਂ ਸ੍ਰੀ ਗੁਰੂ ਨਾਨਕ ਨਾਮ ਚੜ੍ਹਦੀ ਕਲਾ ਤੇਰੇ ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕਾ ਖਾਲਸਾ ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕੀ ਫਤਿਹ।
Santhiya.